Today we have with us Vaishna Biswas AIR-367 UPSC 2025 Kolkata topper. Vaishna, how's the feeling like?
Ma'am, it's a feeling of deep gratitude. The initial feeling of excitement and ecstasy has somewhat settled in, and now it's a more peaceful, calm feeling. I'm looking forward eagerly to my career as a bureaucrat, and that changes your life in a way that you learn to be more responsible, you learn to be more mindful, so that you can exhibit those officer-like qualities for the future generation. Even before joining training, I'm trying to inculcate those practices gradually in my life. That is how life is going on.
Okay. Vaishna, tell me something. How did the civil services happen to you? What was the time, when you thought that, you want a career in civil services, whether it was at your school level or your college level or even after that?
So, the desire to be a part of the civil services was somehow in my mind from a very early age. My grandfather, my maternal grandfather, was in the West Bengal civil service and later worked as an IAS as well. So his legacy made me see that dream, and since 5-6 years of age, whenever someone asked me what do you want to become when you grow up, I would say I want to be a civil servant, although at that time I didn't even know what it really means. However, as a serious career option, I considered it much later at a more mature age. It was after my 4th year of college that I looked at my future career options. And at that time, I, on one hand, had applied abroad for masters, and on the other hand, I had a work offer at TRAI, the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India. So somewhat like a sudden moment of realization, it came to me that I want to give the civil services a very serious, wholehearted try. And for that, the work opportunity at TRAI seemed to be a very smooth transition period. That is how I decided to slowly start my preparation as well.
Okay. So what was your work experience at TRAI like, because the other day you were telling that, you started preparing while you were working and then you took a switch when you felt that no, full-time preparation is very essential. So how was the work like, and if it was very good, how were you able to leave it at that point?
Ma'am, the work at TRAI was deeply enriching. And since I was an electronics and telecommunication engineering graduate, so working on telecom policy was a huge opportunity to both contribute through my technical knowledge and also learn how policy making works at the national level. Because ultimately it is TRAI's recommendations which the Department of Telecom mostly accepts in the telecom policies. So it was very interesting, very prestigious also, very responsible, because one policy could affect millions of Indian subscribers. So the work was of such a nature that I never could bring myself to compromise my work even a little bit for the sake of preparation. It was a very high stakes work, and whenever I also tried to balance it with my studies, either of the two was getting hampered. So for 1.5 years, 1 year, 8 months to be precise, I tried to juggle both, and it just did not work because I am a kind of a person who is usually more comfortable with giving the full attention and full energy to one single task. So how did I manage to leave such a good and such a prestigious job? So I would say that my work seniors were very instrumental in that. Because while I was enjoying my work, they told me that if your ambition is the civil services, then you have a bigger dream. And to live a bigger dream, you sometimes have to take difficult steps. And even as your colleagues, we would tell you that you should focus on your preparation, do it full time if you think that is important, and go ahead, we are giving you all our wishes and all our support. So that was a big positive move which helped me take this difficult step of deciding to prepare full time.
Okay. Vaishna, since both your parents are teachers and renowned teachers of Bengal, so how it was like, you never felt like, professing a career in teaching, since you have teachers, you have seen them, right from the childhood, you never felt that, teaching should be something which I should go for?
Of course, ma'am, their influence did change my life, but I would say in a slightly different way. Like I was at the receiving end of that teaching more than wanting to teach myself. My mother was an active part of my lesson since childhood to the UPSC preparation stage. My father was also involved with my STEM subjects. I would say that as a career option, although my grandfather's influence was more, and actually he had wanted my mother to become a civil servant, but since she found more interest in academia and she was so passionate about literature, she chose a different path, and somehow that dream continued and it came to me. So I just chose a different path, and I got a lot of support from my parents also for that. That is why it worked out in this way.
Okay. Vaishna, academically you have been very strong throughout, right from childhood. As your father rightly remarked the other day, that I never stood, first, and Vaishna never stood second. So what do you have to say about it? Was there any pressure from their end, or you were like, you have to do it for them? It wasn't you. So what is it like?
Ma'am, whenever there was pressure, it was mostly internal. It came from within me rather than from them. They were always there with support, with whatever facilities I needed, with mental, emotional, financial, all kinds of support. But they never imposed their expectations on me, and they never made me feel like I have to earn their respect or their love by doing something or by proving myself. So it was more of an encouragement. They were ready to support me in whatever way, but they were never pressurizing, or they never put any negative pressure on me, so to say.
Okay.